Hello everyone, my name is Courtney and I am so glad that you hopped on here to join us on this journey. This is my first YouTube video and so let's jump on in and get started. All right everyone, like I said, my name is Courtney. I am a wife and a mother to three rambunctious children and we're just going to talk about our homeschooling journey today. So our homeschool journey actually starts with me being homeschooled myself. So my mom homeschooled me from kindergarten through 7th grade. The first time I went to school was in 8th grade. And as a child, like in my younger years, I loved being homeschooled. I stayed in my pajamas for most of the day. We were always done with school before lunch. We played outside all the time. I had great memories of being homeschooled until I got to those upper elementary school years and I started wanting to go to school. You know, I watched my friends get on the bus and I wish I could go with them. I would be done with school early, like I said, so I would be waiting for them to get home from school so that I could play with them. And then my mom would say like, they have to do their homework now, and I would be so bummed. But I thought if I went to school like them, I could play with them all day long. That was my perception of school. Like I would just be there playing with them. So anyway, I was homeschooled, and then as I ended my homeschool journey and started going to school, when I first got to school, I was like, I wish I was back at home. The reasons for that were I was in a school that did block scheduling, which was really hard for me. So, you know, it's like 90 minutes of a subject at a time, which is a long time for me. And I felt like, well, if I'm done with something, I should be able to move on. So that was one thing that was hard. Another thing was just having different teachers and different personalities. I was used to my mom telling me what to do and being able to have a conversation with her if something didn't make sense or if I didn't agree with what was happening. And so having to deal with teachers who maybe weren't used to having that type of dialogue with students or having that pushback or, you know, just that type of interaction. We had a lot of struggles. My parents were up at the school a lot because I was constantly like, well, it doesn't make sense, or why do I have to do that, or I'm done, or I'm bored, so why can't we move on? So lots of things like that. So I wanted to go home, which didn't happen. I ended up staying in school from 8th grade through high school, which was fine. But towards the end of high school, I started loving school, like being in public school. I loved my friends. I loved my school environment. And I thought, I will never homeschool my kids. I'll never do that because this school is amazing now. Fast forward to having my own kids and we're homeschooling. So how did we get there or get here? Well, after I graduated from college, I got my undergrad degree, and then I went and got a master's. Then I ended up not teaching. I was a before and after school care director at an elementary school, which I really enjoyed. It was a large elementary school. We had about 600 students there. I loved the environment. Something's always going on. Things are different every single day. You have the interaction between parents, teachers, students. I enjoyed it. However, I just really observed my families who I would interact with before and after school. And sometimes you had those kids who had to be there right at 6:30 when we opened, and they were so tired, they were dragging in. I saw my kids who got picked up at 6 p.m. who had been at school for some of them like 11 hours, and they were done, like emotionally, physically, spiritually, like they had nothing left. And then to know they had to go home, and some of them still had to do some homework if they hadn't done it in a program. My heart went out to them like, oh my gosh, that's a really hard day for a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old. It's a hard day for an adult. Like I don't want to be somewhere from 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Like who does? And so I would notice these kids, and some of them, like I said, you could just see like the life just be drained out of them by the end of the day, which is absolutely normal if you're at school for that long. But there were some families who, despite getting there early and leaving late, like their children were joyful. When parents picked them up, there was a hug, there was that attachment that you saw. And I wonder, okay, what's the difference here? Like these kids have been here for the same amount of time, but the response that they have to their parents is completely different. And after a couple of years, I noticed, you know, it wasn't so much the fact that being at school changed these kids or getting up early or staying up late. It was really the families that had poured into their children before their kids arrived. So, like when I say before, I mean in the years before they started attending school. Their parents or caregivers or someone had poured into these children and let them know how valuable they were, how much they cared about them, how important they were. And those things made a difference in those children and just their ability to have control of their emotions, or their ability to vocalize when something was wrong or when they needed something. They were able to advocate for themselves. They were able to do their work, and I'm not saying that they were geniuses or that they excelled in all areas, but I do say that they were able to cope and manage themselves much better than the students who didn't have someone pouring into them. And that's my doorbell. Okay, I had to get it. My neighbors dropped off some goodies for us for St. Patrick's Day. So anyway, so I noticed it was the relationship that parents had with their children that made the difference, whether their children were attending school or attending the before and after school care program. So my husband and I, at this time, didn't have any children when I was working this program, but we just made the decision that, if it was possible, that I would stay at home with our kids for as long as possible, just to pour into them, to build them up, to strengthen them, so that in the event they did attend school, that they would be prepared. They'd have that foundation, that base, just like those kids I saw who were stable and were loving and empathetic and just genuinely were able to interact in a healthy way with others. So when I had my son, my first son was in 2015, and I have been home ever since with him. And we have just been on a journey of learning. Fast forward to 2022. Now we have 3 children, ages 6, 4, and 1. And we have just been plugging along. There's been lots of challenges, probably more struggles than there have been successes, but that's what we're going to talk about on this channel, and just things that we deal with each day, how we overcome, how we fail, and how we just keep pushing forward. So that's just what I have to share. I hope you continue to watch and find out a little bit more about us. And I'm just excited to be on here to be sharing the things that we're learning. All right, guys, have a great day.